Give me 2.
Hey, what's up, everybody? I'm Michael Govier. He's Benjamin Chase. You know us because this is the Palazzo Podcast, Prospects Power Half Hour. 2 L's, 2 Z's, like I said.
Utah.
Make sure you follow us here, connect with us, subscribe, all that stuff. You know how it works. I'm not going to go into details. Today, this is a big moment for the show. We've been doing this show since January of 2020. Well, the Palazzo Show. We've been doing this Prospect Show now. This is our second season, right, Ben?
For you and I together, yep.
Yeah, and I love this show. I love doing it with Ben. And this is all thanks to Ben that we got today's guest from MLB Pipeline. Rarely needs an introduction, I would assume. He is the man, the myth, the legend. Jim Callis is here. Welcome in, Jim. Thank you so much for joining us. This is a big moment for the show. I'm not trying to blow smoke up your butt. I'm just really thrilled that you would take the time out with us.
Oh, no, glad to. I love talking prospects, so anytime. I'm looking forward to it.
All right. Well, this is going to be a great show. The live chat will be open. We'll try to answer some questions if we can here in our time available. Jim, right off the bat, before we dive into everything, I'm just curious. How do you see today's state of affairs when it comes to the prospect analysis? So, there's some people say there's a lot of groupthink. Sometimes we all get collectively caught up in a lot of the same thoughts on similar players. How do you separate yourself and distinguish yourself amongst a mass audience of a lot of prospect analysis, more popular than ever?
Yeah, no, I mean, it's funny because when I started at Baseball America in '88, my first full-time job out of college, nobody else was doing prospect analysis. I mean, the Sporting News had kind of backed out of it and kind of gone into doing, I don't know if they did a ton of prospect analysis in the first place, but they'd gone from being the Bible of baseball to trying to cover the 4 major sports, which is why Alan Simpson kind of stepped in and created Baseball America. And I think we're the only people really rating prospects, to be honest. Maybe the Sporting News did a little, because I know our top 100, they did a top 100 prospects book, which kind of inspired us to do our own top 100 prospects list. I think 1990 was the first one. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot out there today. I just think, I mean, for me personally, I mean, I'll look at other lists just to see, more of a cross-check. Hey, like, is there somebody that I'm a lot lower on, a lot higher on than the consensus, and why is that? But I just try to do my own work. I mean, I try to talk to as many people as I can. I don't think we get as much data as some of the outlets do, but we do get access to some of the data. So we look at that. We look at statistics. We get to see players. I mean, it's obviously you can watch almost anybody on video. Mm-hmm. It exists in pretty much everybody, but it's just, I guess, do your own work. Is this the easiest way to answer that question?
Yeah. And so I guess for me, Jim, I think back when you guys got started, I think maybe, being a guy out here in South Dakota, for me, Baseball Weekly had like once a month prospect coverage that was like a line on their team stuff, and then in the off season, they'd give you, hey, these are the next prospects to talk about, which is usually like 3 guys. And, if it was usually somebody who you were pretty darned aware of anyway, if you were anywhere, a fan, because they talked about them during the radio broadcasts and such. I guess for me, you've worked at really 2 of the bigger prospect publications, and you've had a chance to really see now 35 years of growth in the industry, growth or diversification, however you want to call it. But, I guess for you, is it more, do you think we're doing things better evaluating prospects now? Or is it something where perhaps there's so much information that maybe we're losing sight of the player and looking more at, for me, I guess one of the questions I have is when you get to the amateur side and there's, my 14-year-old nephew was on an elite team this summer and playing with the South Dakota elite team all over the country in these tournaments. And I'm thinking, well, that's great exposure for him, but holy cow, the fact that we have to think about that at 14 years old to me is kind of a scary thought.
Yeah, it's crazy. I've never covered, I've never done the international guy, so I've always started with the draft. So it's basically been high school seniors. I haven't delved lower, but I know there's sites that rank that stuff. I mean, I do think the coverage is better just because we have so much more information. And I like to think, just like I think teams would probably tell you in any sport that they're drafting better, that they've learned from past mistakes. I like to think I have learned a lot or have learned from mistakes and experience back in the day. But, we have so much more information. I mean, when I started, this can make me sound really old. There was no internet. There was no, let's call up video and look up this guy on my phone.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it was like, when I worked at Baseball America, our most amazing piece of technology when I started was we had a 1-800 number for subscriptions. But we'd also get people in baseball would call it, like scouts would call us on that number from the road. And again, this was a long time ago. Nobody had cell phones. People were just starting to get cell phones. And if you used a cell phone, it was like probably $5 a minute for a call. And even long distance was through the roof. So having this 1-800 number where scouts could call you back from the road whenever was great. I mean, there was none of this, texting people, hey, how good is this guy's arm? Or what do you know about this guy? It was, it was a lot, but so anyway, information's a lot more available. I still look back to when Alan Simpson was covering the draft when I started at Baseball America. I don't know how he did it. Like, he'd have these detailed scouting reports for guys all over the country. And again, this was pre-internet. So if you found out about a guy, it wasn't like somebody tells you about a guy and you go look up his college stats, you go look up his prep baseball report or perfect game profile and find out some background on him. You didn't have anything. There was none of that. You had to make phone calls, and Alan did it. And so I just think we have a lot more information. We have data. It's weird though. On the flip side, I do think that sometimes it's you could fall in the trap of, I'm not trying to be critical of anyone, but just spitting data out to me in a report isn't very readable, and there's more to it than just pure data. I think sometimes it's interesting to me. You get people who are like, oh man, I saw these guys in person. And it's like, okay, but what are your scouting credentials? Like you saw him, but just because so-and-so is saying, hey, I saw this and his arm action, this, and the spin on his breaking ball, it doesn't necessarily mean that guy knows what he's talking about. So I do think there's a lot more information, but you were kind of alluding to, there's a lot more noise. I don't think it's great. The proliferation of pressure on 12 and 14-year-old kids and where do they rank, and I got to go to a bunch of showcases so I can drive my ranking up. I mean, that part, the showcases do serve a purpose, but I also think that because of how much information's out there, scouts don't miss on too many guys. There aren't too many guys who fly under the radar either. So I think sometimes people can overdo the showcases to some extent. So I think it's obviously exploded in my 35 years, I think mostly for the good, but there is some downside to it too.
Yes, that's some great stuff here. We're live with Jim Callis from MLB Pipeline. I got a couple of things here, Jim. What you just said. First off, someone wants to say hello. Hey, Jim, look at that. Dynamite drop in, Mike. Thank you very much. Also, secondly, I don't know if you've ever heard this, and I just watched this movie recently, so it's fresh in my brain, but you kind of sound like the guy. Did you see the movie, The Chicago 7, the trial of the Chicago 7? This came out a couple years. Okay. No, well, it's based on real people. It's a real trial. Who cares about that? But the guy who plays Jerry Rubin, who was this guy, you sound just like him to me. I'm hearing, where are you from originally?
From the D.C. area, but I live in Chicago now. So.
Chicago. Okay, good. Yeah, I'm a Metro Detroiter, so I'm in the Midwest. What up? That's interesting. And then lastly, credentials with scouting, as you just alluded to. Everybody can make their points and say, hey, this guy looks amazing, even if you see him live or you see him on tape. How do we get or separate people who we think are more credentialed? And I guess I'm really asking you, and maybe I'm not trying to disrespect you at all or scouting, but is scouting difficult? Is it difficult?
Oh, it is. Because the thing is, you're going to be wrong a lot because you're projecting. It's not you like to think of how often NFL and NBA scouts are wrong. And those guys are stepping straight in. There's going to be guys who bust, who were top 5 NFL picks, who are ready to play in the NFL as soon as they picked them. The exception, this year with the Paul Skeens or Dylan Cruz, those guys might be in the big leagues next year. But most of your draftees are at least 2, 3, 4, 5 years away from the big leagues. International guys are even further away when you sign them at 16. And so you're going to be wrong. So I think it is really difficult. I just look at it I've done this long enough that I can see some things, but I look at myself as a reporter and not a scout. I try to talk to a bunch of people whenever I'm doing, whether it's a draft list or a team list or the top 100 or the Arizona Fall League or whatever. I don't rely on just, hey, I watch video and I don't like this guy's swing or I love this guy's swing. I mean, yeah, my personal opinion, obviously creeps into it. But a lot, like if I love a guy and I talk to 5 people and they're like, no, that guy's not very good. I mean, I'm making this very simplified. I'm not going to be there necessarily pounding my fist, go, no, I'm right. And like, I report what people tell me. Like, so it's not, I mean, look, I try to be organized and I do have my opinions, but I wasn't trying to put anybody down in particular, but I'm just saying like I know, like you'll sometimes see people tout like, oh, all our reports are based on firsthand scouting, as if like, okay, but I'll just throw out a counterpoint. Like if I'm doing draft stuff, like I could go to a game like Chicago, like Dylan Head, suburban Chicago, first round pick of Potters. I could go see Dylan Head play. And, and maybe I'll get lucky and he's facing a good pitcher, but it's high school, so maybe not. Maybe like, what if they walk him 3 times? But let's just say I go get one look at him. Do you think, well, what's going to be more informative? Me telling you what I saw in that one look, or me calling 4 scouting directors and 5 area scouts and talking to them about Dylan Head and getting their opinions? I mean, it's not even close. So again, I'm not saying my way's best, but I'm just saying, like, I know people will be like, just answering that previous question, people will be like, oh, like all our things are based on firsthand looks. But it's like, okay, but like you have, like, there's just in MLB, there's good scouts and bad scouts. Yeah. Just like in prospect coverage, there's guys who are good and there's guys who aren't good. It's just the nature of the business. And so just because somebody sees somebody firsthand doesn't mean that they're gleaning some insight or correct insight that somebody else doesn't have. And similarly, like, I mean, I think the data, with exit velocities and spin rates and pitch shapes and all that, it matters. It does. But again, that's not a be all end all. And that stuff interests me. But I also don't love reading reports if somebody's writing up a report where it's just all data, like, oh, this guy hit this against 92 plus, but he hit this against changeups and his exit velocity was this. Like, I could get AI, just give me the data. I could have AI write me that report. Like, so anyway, like there is so much information out there. And I guess if I were more of a consumer than a producer, I think you just consume as, like there's somebody out there and you could tell, I mean, if you read guys over a period of years, you'll see who's seems to know what they're talking about and who doesn't. And like I said, I tend to like people whose stuff is sourced because, like I know they're talking to people in the game. And I mean, look, there's like any other aspect of this. There's hot take artists who like to be like, oh, I'm first on this guy and I don't like this guy. Well, like, I think the hot take artists kind of get revealed after, pretty quickly if you do a lot of this stuff.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, I was just saying, I know being in South Dakota, my main way to see guys is video. I mean, I'm 6 hours away from the closest minor league park. Yeah. Which is, it's same distance to Minneapolis for me. So I can either see a major league game or a game in Omaha. Either way, it's, the best. But yet, whenever I have an evaluation on someone, it's almost always 6-7 looks I've had at that person intentionally, looking at video on them going, okay, I know I need to have an opinion. Let's see. Let's say, using Paul Skeens. Paul Skeens is going to be facing, Fredericksburg. And so I know that's going to give me a good look at the hitters in Fredericksburg to see how they match up against velocity, and you kind of intentionally set up your views on video to go, okay, I want to see this guy and I want to see him get challenged a little bit, but yet I also, maybe I go back and I find a game where he was 4 for 4 with 3 doubles. That gives me a good look at, okay, well, I saw him face somebody tough. What's his swing look like when he's really going good for a day? Yeah. Is there a difference in that swing versus the swing I saw, and things like that. And you can do a lot with that video. Yeah. You can't see everything. It's different. I get it. I shoot high school baseball as part of my life. I see that a lot. It's a very different game than when I watch that same game on video. It doesn't look the same, but you still can get a lot of the reads just by watching that video.
Yeah, no, exactly. And like I said, I mean, it's great to go see players in person too. And I'm not knocking it. I was more knocking the people who are like, oh, like act like that's the only way to see players, because it's not. And again, it's the same thing for me. Like we have, like when I worked for Baseball America, we had minor league teams all over the place. Here, I think the closest team probably hour and a half, 2 hours away. Yeah. So like, again, I could be more productive talking to scouts than like making 2 hour, and that's just to get to the game, making a day to see one game. Like, it is what it is. You got to, make take advantage of what's available to you. Well, that's the nice thing. I mean, it's crazy. Yeah. Like, again, if you had told me when I was started that in the future I could watch like minor league games or college games live on my phone, I would have been like, what? Like my rotary phone? What are you talking about?
Yeah.
Like, how's that going to work? Yeah. So it's like, it's pretty crazy.
So Jim, I noticed that you've got your Georgia baseball shirt on. Yep. And you said you got your start there and left in '88. So I'm guessing I did my little Google cursory research. Did you get to report on Dave Fleming?
I did. It was funny. So the first year I covered the team was in '87, and we went to the College World Series for first time in school history. And we had 2 first-round picks. We had Derek Loquist, Chris Carpenter were on the pitching staff. Chris Carpenter was also our punter, which was in vogue at the time. There were a lot of baseball playing punters in college football. Billy Spires was Clemson's punter. Vince Coleman was a punter. Florida A&M. There were a bunch. Darren Erstad later down the road was a punter and kicker. And we had a third big leaguer, Steve Carter. And then the draft kind of decimated the team. And Dave Fleming was a freshman in '88, so I covered his freshman year. And then one of the cool things was I remember I got to cover. When I went to Baseball America back then, again, the industry was totally different. There was no internet, there were no blogs, it was just newspapers pretty much and magazines. And 99% of the people, if you want to go into sports writing, you'd go work for a small paper and you'd edit copy and make sure the box scores fit, and you'd cover high school football and basketball and maybe get a chance to do a feature here and there. And I was fortunate. I went straight to Baseball America, and we had, I think, 4 full-time editorial employees. And so we did everything. I was editing, writing, assigning photos, you name it. I was doing it. And I was our college international baseball guy. And so I got to cover the 1990 team that won it. I was in Omaha, and I'd gone to school with most of those guys. So that was, I had classes with a bunch of those guys. So that's still, I mean, that's, 33 years ago, but that's still one of my fondest professional memories was that team winning the College World Series. That was pretty cool.
Oh,
one of my first baseball games I ever attended in the Metrodome was Dave Fleming complete game for the Mariners in like 92 or 93. So
he won 17 games as a rookie, and then he got hurt, and that was, he kind of hung on a little bit, but like he had the one big year. I think he won, I want to say 17 games as a rookie, and he was I think he hit a little as a freshman. Like he wound up becoming a full-time pitcher, but Derek Loquist was a big 2-way guy for us, and he was kind of the guy who replaced Derek Loquist. And
love Derek Loquist.
The guy who recruited him was Howie McCann, who was Brian McCann's dad. He was our big recruiter who had like a pipeline in upstate New York and a pipeline to Sarasota High School where Derek Loquist and we had a number of players come out of Sarasota High.
Yeah, love Derek Loquist. A Fleming versus Kevin Tapani game.
There you go.
And I think it was either 1 or 2-0. I think is what it was. I loved it because I love Kevin Tapani, so that's what I was hoping to see. It was a good game from him, and then they lost. And like I said, it was Twins got shut out. So being the local team, that wasn't any good, but it was still fun.
Jim, I can confirm right now that Ben is just researching for his next immaculate grid. So he's just trying to keep all these names fresh in his head. That's exactly what he's doing. So he's really good at it. This guy is amazing. I've seen his scores. It's incredible. He gets like the 0.007s.
I think Fleming pitched for the Royals maybe briefly in the comeback trail. So maybe if you get that Seattle, KC, I bet Dave Fleming's pretty rare.
Yeah, Bill Kruger flashbacks. We got the live chat going on here. Chad just said that he can confirm that McCann was big up here. We're live with Jim Callis here, Plazo Podcast, 2 L's, 2 Z's.
Utah.
Make sure you follow him on Twitter or X, whatever the hell they call it now. I'm MJ Govier, Big Gentle Ben. You'll know where to find it. I want to get this question in because he's been patient and Chad asked it. So it's one question. It just has 2 pages. So bear with me, Jim. This is for you, of course. Here we go. Question 1 for Jim. In 19 to 20, we saw some rather aggressive rankings for Pipeline that didn't really seem to pan out. In 2021, we saw a change to a slower ranking push, almost like the foot was taken off the gas as we saw Painter, slowly climb. And now this year, we have seen even more aggressive rankings than ever. Are these all coincidence, or were each of these conscious changes?
I mean, this will sound like a non-answer. I don't really have any idea what he's talking about. Like there hasn't been about what aggressive rankings. I mean, I'm not saying we're infallible, but I don't know what rankings we had that were aggressive that didn't pan out. And no, I mean, look, I mean, you constantly try to learn. So if we were doing something I don't know, overrating third baseman for some reason, we might say, hey, we're misevaluating these guys. Or if we were blowing rankings on pitchers, I mean, pitchers are tough because they get hurt. But if we had something systematic that we're hey, we're repeating the same mistake here and it's not working, we'd do that. But no, I don't even know what aggressive ranking means, honestly. Yeah. Does that, I mean, I know sometimes people are oh, how can you rank draft guys before they've even played? And it's well, would you trade for Paul Skeens right now or not? If you could have any pitcher in the minor leagues, right now I'm taking Paul Skeens. This is before he pitched. He was on our top 100 before he pitched. And I think Dylan Cruz is 4th. I don't have our list in front of me. I would take Dylan Cruz over almost any prospect in baseball. Just because he hasn't played doesn't change that. But no, I don't. Maybe he'll follow up. I don't know how we were aggressive or then slow playing guys. There was nothing conscious. The one part I can definitively answer, there was no conscious effort in any of that to change how we were ranking guys, and we weren't trying to be aggressive and then dialing back and then being aggressive again.
So something for instance, I was covering Braves prospects when Maitan came up, and boy, that changed how kind of you'd listen to Braves guys now. They're not ever ready to buy into an international guy anymore. I mean, Guanipa looks like the thing. He looks like he could be a heck of a prospect, but nobody really wants to buy into him because they got burned so bad by Maitan. Never mind that Maitan got taken away, but that burned a lot of coverage, and nationally too, because Maitan was up in the top 20 of a lot of people's.
I know. I think we had him in the 30s or 40s. The international guys are tough, and here's why they're tough: because one, you're projecting so far ahead on these guys. That's one. So we generally almost never rank guys until they start playing and go from there. We will rank them on the team list, but not on the top 100. And so on one hand, you're these guys are so far away. We need to be cautious. Kevin Maitan's a cautionary tale, obviously. Christian Hernandez, we ranked pretty quickly, and he's kind of leveled off in the Cub system. Jason Dominguez, we were talking about this. We moved him down our list when we did our midseason update, and he's hit 400 since then, and now he's in the big league. So it's and he was hitting 240 and on pace for 160 strikeouts. Even though he's young in Double-A, it's tough to know what to make of these guys. But you get torn because on the other hand, you look at how many great international players there are in Major League Baseball, and then how many. It's so we feel we're on those guys again. I wouldn't say it's a conscious, but we're slow to recognize it. We make them prove it because they're so young, and then you feel oh, we're missing the boat. So when a guy gets super hyped, you're okay, we're going to rank that guy, and we didn't rank Wander Franco or Vladimir Guerrero Jr. right away, but we did rank them pretty quickly and aggressively once they played in the Appy League. It's just tough because the other thing is they sign and then they go play in the Dominican Summer League, which isn't. It's I don't know, the equivalent of high school ball maybe. It's better players, but it's 16, 17 year olds. You guys aren't throwing strikes. Guys don't have much of an approach. It's hard to really read anything of I don't think those stats are very predictive at all, unless the guy is struggling, then it's a point of concern. But yeah, we still talk about Maitan. He was supposed to be as good an international prospect as there had been in years, and he hasn't been very good at all. Yeah. And so do you get aggressive with them, or do you dial back on them? Yeah, and I mean, look at that. I mean, that's a pretty good top of the list. I mean, Ohtani.
Yeah, you crushed this.
Ohtani's a little bit of a freebie because he was coming over from Japan. But what's funny is our scouting report on him was glowing, and it was probably light in retrospect.
Yeah, 2018, the top three: Ohtani, Acuna Jr., and Vladimir Guerrero Jr. That's outstanding. Eloy is a guy, he gets hurt, but his talent's there, so I would totally support that still. And then there's obviously the guys that don't always work out. Victor Robles, he can't hit. He can field. Yeah. He can run.
The data was a concern on him. He didn't have high exit velocities, and that's proven out. He just does not hit the ball hard.
Yeah, it's a crapshoot. I mean, couldn't you say it's still a crapshoot, even though you put tons of work into this, right? Is that fair to say?
I would. I mean, it's funny. I mean, it's just like I don't think teams would ever acknowledge. I mean, the playoffs are a crapshoot because it's like you're playing these short series now. I mean, if you're a wildcard team, you got to win 4 short series. Even if you're best record in baseball, you got to win 3 short series. But nobody ever wants to say it's a crapshoot because then it somewhat, I don't know, it feels like it diminishes it. And no, I would say that like if you could have one factor in. Take my job out. We'll say I'm a team. I'm trying to develop talent. If you could have one factor, the biggest factor might be luck. I mean, whether it's injury luck or, there's all these stories, guy discovers a pitch in an odd sort of way.
Well, the Dodgers been in the playoffs here for 10 years straight, right? I mean, obviously.
It's like the Braves back in the day. And like, they've got one World Series to show for it. But
Ben's ready to talk about that for 2 hours.
No. I don't want to go back and remember that.
But you're right. I mean, with the problem, you can have, we have more information than ever. And you can look at any, whether it's our list or Fangraphs or Baseball America or ESPN or The Athletic or baseball, whoever's list you want to look at, take them all. Like I just rattle off 6 of us who I think are pretty established. And we can go back, 5 years from now, look at our list and when you think about all the data and video and resources we have that we didn't have before. And we look at our list 5 years from now, and it's going to be the same thing. We're going to be like, man, that guy's good. That guy's good. Oh, that guy's not good. Oh, that guy got hurt. Like just think about, Andrew Painter didn't do anything wrong. Andrew Painter looked awesome. A year ago, Andrew Painter coming into your best pitching prospect in baseball. Is he going to make Phillies open day roster? If he doesn't, he's going to be up. He's going to help him. And now he might not pitch till 2025. And I don't think and that one's not anybody was wrong. He just got hurt. But there's going to be guys who we have ranked very highly who, have a flaw that hasn't been exposed yet and get exposed to the big league level a lot. There's off-field stuff too, like guys get into trouble, or I mentioned Wander Franco, and we don't need to talk about that. But
you can't predict that crap. Yeah.
Well, and actually, that one kind of tails right into. I was just looking at the 2019 list, and probably if you wanted to say your biggest quote unquote miss in the top 10 is Forrest Whitley, but going into that, absolutely, the stuff is absolutely best in baseball at the time, as far as a pitcher. And then
Senzel isn't looking too good either. At least he's got.
Well, this is true.
He can't stay healthy either. He had vertigo. He's got all kinds of stuff going on there. Yeah.
But Whitley ended up having that. Got himself into some trouble as far off.
That was a minor thing. That was, I think, he took Adderall. He had a long drive or something. But it was just crazy because, the years now run together on Forrest Whitley. I can't even remember what years what anymore. Was he drafted in 17? Wherever he was drafted, his first 16. Full year in pro ball, he got to Double-A, and he looked awesome. And he went to the fall league. I would have thought he'd make the rotation the next year, and that was the year he got suspended and he got hurt a little bit. So he's back in the fall league. He led the fall league in strikeouts 2 years in a row. And I always say with him, I've seen him pitch like 7 or 8 times live. He just looked great every time. So I'm great for 2 straight years in the fall league, and then he just hasn't been able to stay healthy. And I do our Astros list too. So coming into the year, let's see, 20 is at 16. Yeah, 16.
Yeah.
Yep. So coming into this year, I think I ranked him. Do we have our list done? Yeah, I guess we did. I think I ranked him 20th on the Astros list, which was the lowest we've ranked him in a while. He's not even on the list now. We dropped him mid-season because I think he's had shoulder issues. But the funny thing was, I was in spring training. I was at Astros camp. I saw him pitch 2 innings, and he looked awesome. And I was I wasn't saying, I'm all in. Let's put him on the top 100. But I was like, Forrest Whitley looks really good. So I think that maybe I just have to they need to hire me to shadow Forrest Whitley because I've seen him pitch. I saw him pitch at Wrigley Field in the Under Armour game, probably in 15. And he pitched good there too. I think I've seen him pitch literally 8 times in my life in person, and he's looked really good 8 times. And that's with the pitchers, you just know. I can go way back to when I started at Baseball America. I think the second year we did the top 100 in 1991, it's either 91 or 92, the Mariners had a pitcher named Roger Salkeld, who was probably number 3 on the list, and he got hurt, and he never made it. I think he pitched a little in the big leagues, but he got hurt, and he was never the same. And that's the tough part with pitchers.
Well, Matt Anderson, he was a top pick for the Tigers in the late 90s. That didn't work out.
He was number 1 overall pick. Yeah.
And
a little bit of a money saver there, but
yeah. Well, and I guess my point with Whitley was more that as far as, you just don't know until you know, because like you said, I've watched him a number of times since too, and the stuff looks great when he's got it controlled. But
I've seen him control every time too, man. That's the crazy thing. Like, I know his control comes and goes, and he's had issues. I've never seen the guy not throw strikes. Like I said, he was in the fall league back-to-back years, and he led the league in strikeouts both times. And he just dealt. Like, I probably saw him pitch 5 or 6 times in the fall league, and he just dealt. This spring, he was throwing strikes. Under Armour game, he was throwing strikes. It's just insane.
Yeah. Wow. And that's just it. Like, you just never know with someone like that. Now, I guess, Jim, one of the last things that I kind of want to make sure we get into, because it has changed a lot in the last, let's say, 5 years or so. There's a lot of kind of testing that Major League Baseball is doing with different rules and things like that in the minors. And what do you think that does as far as trying to evaluate what a player truly is? When a guy in let's say A-ball changes their pickoff rules, and all of a sudden everyone in A-ball is stealing 50 bases, it makes it kind of tough to go, okay, so who's really the good base stealer here? And then
the Southern League baseball, right?
Yeah, I think the baseball is the biggest one. I mean, stolen bases have always been kind of wacky because you'd have guys. It's funny because, like, look, a lot of what drives the prospect stuff is fantasy baseball. People want to know what players they need for the future, and like people are always looking for steals. Yeah, no, I mean everybody plays it, and like you'll see some guys steal 40 bases in A ball, and like I know from writing reports and time scouts, the guy's got like fringy to average speed, but he has good instincts. He's stealing off the pitchers. The catchers, are like, go watch catchers in A ball and go watch catchers in the big leagues and look at where they put the throws. In the big leagues, the throw's on the bag most of the time. Yeah. In A-ball, the throw's not on the bag. So it's like steals. Steel toes have always been out of whack. So those I don't worry about too much. I think the pre-tacked ball this year is the most interesting one because they were using it in the Southern League, and strikeout rates were up huge at the beginning of the year. And there's 2 guys who jump out at me. One was Andrew Abbott, who was not known as an overpowering strikeout pitcher. And it was like, okay, is this really for, like, how real is this? Well, he's pitched really well in the big leagues. Not striking out guys at the same rate he was in the Southern League. And then from the hitting side, Owen Casey of the Cubs, who's got about as much power as anybody in the minor leagues, has crushed the ball season long, but he was striking out, I think in April, like a 40% clip. Yep. It was like 37% over the first 2 months. And I do our Cubs list. I do a bunch of stuff from Marquee, and they're always giving me a hard time. We had Casey down a little bit on our list coming into the year. And then we moved him up. He's 3 on the list now. We updated, but it was his strikeout rate is down to like 25% since they've gone away from the pre-tacked ball. So how much of that is it guys are spinning the ball less? How much is he's learned something, made some adjustments? How much of it is he refined as a pro? Like, you don't know. And so I think the pre-tacked ball, like you also had, and I've lost track, like it was a couple years ago, but like they switched to the Major League ball in AAA. Yeah, you'd have guys go from AA to AAA, and are they using the Major League ball in AA this year?
I don't know. I know
they were talking about one point, but I know they use it in AAA. So you would see guys go from AA to AAA, and I remember doing the AAA championship game one year, probably 2019. With Jim Cott was one of the broadcasters, and he was looking at the AAA ball, and I think he described it as like a rock with seams painted on it. Like it was like the Major League balls are like ridiculous. Yeah. Like, and again, I mean, they've been tweaked since then, so maybe not as bad. But he's just like I would not like to pitch with this ball at all. But you would have guys go from AA to AAA and just get rocked. And similarly, you'd have guys put up huge offensive numbers in AAA, and there's some bandboxes in AAA too, so you have to factor that in. It's tough, but I do think the pre-tacked ball, and because they only used it for part of the season, I don't know if there's enough, data on either side to make comparisons. Like I said, I don't know. Was that solely to the reason Owen Casey was striking out so much, or was his approach messed up and he's adjusted it? You'd have to watch a lot of video to see, like almost pitch by pitch, what he's swinging at and what he's missing at. But yeah, it is when they do that stuff, you kind of have to take that into consideration. Like even with, I'll give you another one, the ABS system in AAA.
I was just going to bring that up. Yeah.
Like that's another reason I think offense has been up in AAA this year is talking to farm directors and scouts. so they're trying. We're eventually going to have ABS in the big leagues, whether it's going to be calling every pitch or whether it's going to be the challenge system, which is actually kind of cool. I've seen them both in Arizona Fall League. We don't know. But one of the biggest gripes hitters have with ABS is if you set up your three-dimensional box, like you can have a pitch. Can't do it here. You could have a pitch like kind of come in and clip the bottom of the strike zone and then continue to break. And it's like the catcher's catching almost in the dirt and it's a strike because it clipped the bottom corner of the strike zone or whatever. And so the ABS system, my understanding is they have kind of configured the strike zone to eliminate those strikes. So the strike zone actually is smaller than pitchers certainly would agree it should be. And so that's been an adjustment too. When you come from AA to AAA, the strike zone suddenly shrinks on you while you're trying to make the final step to get into the big league. So again, you kind of have to take that into consideration as well. And then you get to the big leagues and there's no ABS. So yeah, it's like all that stuff. Teams are definitely trying to figure that. And like, I know, for example, like even non-ABS, but like I was just thinking about strikes and how they're kind of arbitrary. I know when Evan Carter was in spring training with the Rangers, he had like 30 plate appearances or 20 plate and drew like 10 walks. He also struck out 7 times. And the Rangers told me, I think like 3 or 4 more, about half of his strikeouts were on balls outside the strike zone. Like his eye is that good. And he just does not swing. Like the ball's like a half inch off the plate. Evan Carter doesn't swing. Like his strike zone is that refined. I might be exaggerating, but you know what I'm saying? Like he's that honed in and he was getting rung up on pitches that when they looked at the TrackMan and the Hawkeye were not strikes, but were called strikes. So that's another one. The ABS is it's tough on pitchers to adjust. Like I know talking to the Giants about Kyle Harrison.
Yeah. That's what I was going to bring up. Yeah.
And his control has never been, it's funny because he was more of a polished lefty in high school. And then his stuff, he told me, I talked to him this a couple springs ago. He only got to pitch once his senior year because of the pandemic. And his stuff had made a leap in that one start. So it wasn't like his stuff made a leap in pro ball when we saw him in 21. He thinks his stuff would have made a leap in 20 had he been able to pitch. But anyway, 21, 22, he's trying to harness it. And at the beginning of this year, he was walking like 7 or 8 guys per 9. And that's, I think, because his stuff moves so much and because the strike zone shrunk on him in AAA.
Yeah, he had an interview recently after one of his starts where he said, now instead of pitching to a spot, I can let my ball do what it does, or I let the pitch do what it does. And in the major leagues, my catcher can take care of the rest.
Yeah, and
there's a lot to say about that.
Yeah.
So
the art of pitching, that's right. And it may be what you're alluding to here, Jim. I'm not saying that's what you're saying, but I'm thinking now that maybe some of these inflated pitching numbers at AAA across both leagues, PCL, International League, maybe it's not just the ballparks. Maybe it's also a combination of the ballparks and the strict.
Fewer strikes called, you're right. If you're getting fewer strikes called, you're putting the hitters in hitters counts. Yeah.
It's really interesting.
That's part of it. You got, so that's part of it too. So that's why, Kyle Harrison, I don't have his numbers for him, but I think he still walked maybe over 5 per 9 innings in AAA. It's a small sample size, but he's been really good in the big leagues. But that's, again, we all look at the numbers, but there's numbers behind the numbers and there's context behind the numbers as to, what do you really, what do you make of that? So, it's interesting too. Like we're fortunate. We got access to Synergy a couple of years ago, which is wonderful for the draft. Like I don't know how I would live without Synergy now for the draft, because you could call up and you could look at like D1 guys has almost every pitch they throw, and even you'll have like JUCO guys, D2 guy, like it's amazing. But they also have AAA and AA also, and you can sit there and I will not say I've done this for Kyle Harrison, but if I wanted to do a deep dive on Kyle Harrison, I could watch every pitch Kyle Harrison's thrown in AAA this year. And look, or I could even separate out and look at every ball he's thrown in AAA and see how many of those were borderline pitches. But
wow, okay, well that is great stuff. That is really fascinating. I'm going to apply that to my own fantasy prospect analysis going forward. It's something I'm going to really consider. And if I could take away one thing at least from this show, that's a fantastic day. There are 2 quick things here I wanted to hit on because these people have been patient. Mike said, "Is there a prospect you're really high on outside of the top 10, Jim?"
I'm gonna have to look at our list because I've been on vacation the last 2 weeks since we did our
Good for
list.
you. Enjoy
So
your life, man. Take a break.
First vacation of the year. Like the guy who I've been high on for a while, he's outside the top 10. The guy who I was super high on last year out of the draft was Cade Horton. And like he's now one of the best pitching prospects in baseball. Well, I'll give you. I mean, there's a lot of these guys are good, but I'll give you two guys outside the top 10, and they're both in the 11-20 range. I think Wyatt Langford gets overshadowed a little bit. We've got him at number 13. The Rangers took him 4th overall, and I think in all the Paul Skeens, Dylan Cruz talk, a lot of years Wyatt Langford would have been an easy number 1 pick. I mean, he's got probably as much power as anybody in the minors.
Do you think the Tigers should have taken him? But if you would have done it over versus Max Clark, I'm just curious.
Well, they saved money to give it to Kevin McGonigal. I mean, I like Max Clark. I would have taken, like, just straight up talent-wise, I would have taken Wyatt Langford. Now, that said, Max Clark, potential number 1 pick in a lot of years, too. Max Clark's really talented. And he costs less, and they use that money elsewhere. But, yeah, I mean, I think Max Clark has a better chance to play center field than Wyatt Langford, and he's quicker. But Langford's a good athlete for his size, has a chance to play center. I think the arm will definitely play in right. Huge power. So anyway, I just think, I mean, we've ranked him 13th. I think everybody else's list has him ranked pretty high, but I do think he gets overlooked because everybody was like Paul Skeens, Dylan Cruz. And he got overlooked there a little bit. And then the other one, and he's been hurt a little bit this year, not anything serious, but it just delayed the start to the season. I don't think people realize how good Colson Montgomery is with the White Sox.
Oh, yeah.
He's young, and I'm not going to get on a long soapbox here, but when people tell you don't draft 19-year-old high school players, that's garbage. You should draft talented high school players. If they're 19, that's fine. Bobby Witt Jr. was 19 also. Or don't take Bobby Witt Jr. Don't take Colson Montgomery. There's Manny Ramirez. I could rattle off a bunch of names. Anyway, I'm not going to sidetrack myself. But anyway, Colson Montgomery, I think, because he missed like the first couple months of the season, has kind of flown under the radar. But that guy, like, he's more athletic. Like, it's easy to say 6'4" shortstop. He's going to outgrow the position. I think he keeps looking better at shortstop. He's not going to win a Gold Glove there, but he might actually be a legitimate shortstop, kind of like a younger Corey Seager was in his earlier days. And he gets compared to Corey a lot because he's 6'4", lefty-handed shortstop, and he can really hit, and he's got a ton of power. So I think those are probably the two guys who. I mean, I don't think anybody underrates them, but those are two guys that it's not out of the realm of possibility. Let's say Skeens and Dylan Cruz get promoted to the big leagues next year. That like by midseason next year, that Wyatt Langford and Colson Montgomery, I mean, shoot, they could be the 1 and 2 prospects on the list, depending on who else graduates. They're that good.
Wow, that's fun. And then the other one was, since you do the Cubs, Mr. Alexander Canario was just called up. Any quick comments on Canario?
Yeah, and it's interesting. He hit 37 homers last year. I think that was second in the minors. And it was funny because Matt Mervis got a lot of attention, and he had 36 home runs in the same system. Canario hit 37. He didn't quite get the same attention. I mean, he wasn't a non-drafted free agent like Mervis was. Unfortunately for Mervis, he never really got much of a shot with the Cubs this year. Like they brought in Eric Hosmer, whatever. So Canario hit 37 homers, right field arm. There's some swing and miss to his game. He's very aggressive, but it's legit, like classic right field profile. Mm-hmm. And he had, I think it was the Dominican Winter League, played winter ball this year. He had a base running mishap where his foot hit the bag funny, and he hit the ground, and he, I think, dislocated his ankle and dislocated his shoulder and tore ankle ligaments. He had to have 2 surgeries. It was pretty serious. And I honestly thought he was going to miss. My impression was he was going to miss most of the year. That maybe he'd come back like in late August or something, and then we'd see him in the fall league. And he came back, I want to say, middle of the season. Got off to a little bit of a slow start, but he's been getting increasingly better in AAA. So I was actually, I'm really happy for him, because sometimes you have an injury like that and you lose most of a year and you might miss your opportunity. Like Pete Crow Armstrong's coming. He's going to take up an outfield spot. Ian Happ signed long-term. They got Suzuki. They got Mike Tauchman's playing out of his mind.
Mike Tauchman.
Yeah. Cody Bellinger.
It's crazy.
Cody Bellinger coming back. So anyway, they had Owen Casey's coming too. So it was not impossible that, let's say he missed most of this year, that PCA makes a team next year and Casey's up by midseason and Alexander Canario never really gets a shot. Like that could have happened. So he's got legitimate power. And I'll be interested to see. I saw he got promoted. I haven't seen any statement like, oh, he's going to play, this is going to be his role, how much playing time he's going to get. He's the type of guy who could struggle in the majors initially because he's more of a power over hit, aggressive guy. And I'm sure that scouting report's out there. So I'm sure major league pitchers are going to be like, okay, let's see if he chases a little bit. But he also has power. So it'll be interesting. We'll see. Like, I don't know if this precludes Pete Crow Armstrong coming up. Like, because the rosters expand by 2 more tomorrow. Mm-hmm. So maybe we'll see PCA also. But no,
remember the good old days? 40-man rosters? Those were the days.
Yeah. But you just get 2. But I think we could see PCA. But I don't know Alexander Canario, but when I saw the news, I was really, really happy for him because, like I said, I thought there's a chance that this basically base running accident could have derailed his career, and not only did he come back sooner than expected, I didn't think honestly, I didn't think if you told me playing the big leagues this year, like he's playing the big leagues and the Cubs are contending, it'd be like what? Like why would they call him up? Like I wouldn't have thought he'd be ready to help a contending club. So great for him.
Yeah, that's great. Canario.
Now if they could just call up Mervis and give Mervis a shot to actually do something.
Yeah, I feel bad for him because they signed Eric Hosmer, and Eric Hosmer was cooked. I just didn't I know Eric Hosmer cost him the minimum. And the thing was, you weren't a full-fledged contender at the beginning of the year. So I could have seen if they I could see bringing in Trey Mancini, and I know that didn't work out. But okay, we'll platoon Mervis and Mancini, we'll ease him in, we'll see how it goes. And that didn't happen. And I can't remember if the team was struggling or hot because the Cubs have been hot and cold all year long. Mm-hmm. When he came up, he needed to produce. And the one thing that Mervis had done a nice job of last year, besides hitting home runs, was his approach, his strike to walk ratio got better at every level. And he got to the big leagues, and a lot of rookies, he was trying to do too much, and he struck out 4 times as much as he walked. And back in AAA, he's gotten his approach back. But now, I don't know what's going to happen. They're expecting to contend next year, which they should, because they're contending now. They're not going to just say, oh, Matt Mervis is our first baseman, or they're probably going to whether they bring Bellinger back and put him at first because PCA is going to be in center field pretty soon. I don't know, but I wonder with Matt Mervis, I was talking about with Canario, he might not get another 100 at bats with the Cubs to show what he can do. And it's unfortunate. People know it's tough to make the major leagues, but you also have to have kind of the stars align, and because the Cubs also got better this year. If the Cubs, we thought 10 days before the deadline, the Cubs might be trading players. So let's say they hadn't got on a hot streak and they traded players and they went 70-92 or whatever this year. Mm-hmm. Then they might say, you know what, we got they might say we got to give Matt Mervis 2 months to show what he can do, and or B, okay, we're still kind of a year away, so we'll let Mervis show us what he can do. But now because they got hot, it's hard to give him at bats.
Yeah.
The real deal. 8 games over 500. It's unreal, man. Cubs totally turned it around. And remember, me and Ben were having conversations back in late May into June, hey, David Ross, is he going to is he the right guy for this job? What's going on there? Now, booyah.
Yep. No,
party on the north side. Party on the north side. And also, Mike was saying, I'm really high on Connor Norby and Kobe Mayo. And then he puts a smiley face. He loves the Orioles, so that's just kind of
that's a good team to be a fan of. It's I will say this, they've been our number 1 farm system. We do the rankings twice a year, I think, for our last 5 rankings. But I have, in 35 years of doing this, never seen a team have the number 1 prospect in Adley Rutschman. Then shortly after that, have the number 1 prospect in a different guy, and that was Gunnar Henderson. And then shortly after that, they had the number 1 prospect in Jackson Holiday. And I also can't think of a team. They had 2 guys who were the number 1 prospect in baseball, and they graduated both the guys to the big leagues, and they still had the best farm system in baseball. That's unheard of.
Well, they haven't traded away a lot of assets either. Maybe they should have, but why not? They're winning, so why should they?
I think this offseason, their owner's crying about how, you can't pay guys. Well, you're not. How would you know you're not paying guys? Because you don't have to. But no, I think this offseason, now that, they're going to make the playoffs, clearly now their window has opened, that they're going to have to consult. I like Norby and I like Mayo too. It's just where are all these guys going to play? You have Gunnar Henderson and Jackson Holiday have to play somewhere in the infield, and you have Mayo, and you have Mountcastle at first, and you have Joey Ortiz, and you have Norby. Norby might be an outfielder, but they got Colton Cowser and Heston Kjerstad trying to break into the outfield too.
I think I have an all MLB prospects team, like the whole Major League roster in another year and a half, just all of their prospects across the board. Outfield, infield, catcher.
Yeah, no, pretty much. Like they just need to find some pitching. So I think we'll see them make some moves this offseason and probably whether it's sign, trade, or both. But they're also getting to the point where not only do they have all these prospects, they're all in AAA in the majors. So they're starting to stack up. So you kind of need to either have a place to play them or trade them.
Yeah, that's a good point. Well, I got to tell you, this has been a real pleasure. Jim, you crushed it. You had so much information, and there's so many more questions I would want to ask, but we will save it for another time.
Sure.
We'd love to have you back if you ever get a chance. I love talking baseball. Thank you so much to Jim Callis, MLB Pipeline. Anything you want to mention, Jim, that you didn't get to mention?
No, I mean, just invite people to check out our site, MLB Pipeline. The nice thing is, because it's MLB.com, and we're trying to promote the game. Everything's free. All our scouting reports, all the videos, all that stuff's free. I guess our next big project as you can see it here, so my daughter's puppy, it's almost 5 o'clock here, which is when we're watching our daughter's puppy along with our 3, and he was fairly hungry, so he's gnawing on me. Stop that.
Yeah, I think I saw 2 or 3 golden retrievers in a picture on your Twitter profile. I was like, I love dogs.
We have 3. Those are ours. This is my daughter's who's
oh, wow,
home for college. He's going back to Seattle soon, but he's apparently gotten hungry. But I was getting distracted. What was I saying there before I got chewed on?
MLB Pipeline rules.
MLB Pipeline. I said it's all for us. Our next big thing, it's crazy that we're almost done with the season, but I think our next big thing, we'll probably do some college and high school top 20 draft lists at some point in September, and then we got Arizona Fall League coming up. So,
are you gonna be out there, Jim?
I am. I think I'm out there for the first and last week. We're still figuring that out. So,
are you there during first pitch Arizona or not?
I don't think I am this year.
Okay, yeah, I've gone the last couple of years, and I don't. If you'd been there and I didn't meet you, there's a lot of people.
I've been in the past. I haven't the last couple of years. It's a cool event. So.
Oh yeah, I'm a lifer now. So if I ever get a chance to see you out there, I'll definitely say hi, and it'll be a pleasure to talk to Jim Callis.
What is it this year? Because is it going to be the same weekend as the Fall Stars game?
It's November 2nd through the 5th.
I'll be there I will come back for the Fall Stars game and then stay through the end of the season. So,
great. Okay, cool. Yeah, that's on a Sunday.
Eaten by a pack of golden retrievers here.
Never. They're so sweet. They're the sweetest dogs on earth. I love them.
They are. Although this one's very hungry. I've got our 6-year-old golden retrievers looking at me like, what is the puppy doing? And we have 2 other golden retrievers wandering around the house. Ouch, dude.
Well, make sure, if you love golden retrievers, you're following Jim on Twitter. Of course, that's what you should always be doing. Ben, Big Gentle Ben, on Twitter. Ben, you were the one who made this happen. Jim, thanks for liking Ben enough to come on the show. I really appreciate that.
Anytime. It was a lot of fun.
Great.
Everyone loves Ben. Ben's the best. Big Gentle Ben on Twitter. He's also nominated for an Internet Baseball Writers Association Award for Best Prospects Writer. So please vote for Ben, which is currently going until September 8th. And yes, I'm up for host. You can vote for me too. But I'm more interested in seeing Ben win for the prospects writer. Because
6-year-olds are getting hungry too. So
now you're getting dogs all over the place.
All right. Well, thanks, everybody. This has been the Palazzo Podcast, 2 Whales, 2 Z's. Jim Callis. We appreciate it greatly. Ben, Michael, thanks to everybody in live chat. We'll catch you.